This song is from a poem written by Ibn al-Farid. Ibn al-Farid is a Sufi who lived in Spain, the Andalusian era. And the poem starts with Salabat Layla Minni al-Aqla, which means Layla is a name that has been always used in the tradition of the even pre-Islamic poetry, a name of a woman. So the poet always, that's been the tradition in poetry, they start their poetry talking and speaking to a woman figure. Now, pre-Islamic, almost most of the poetry started with woman and moved to wine. So there's always woman and wine, and it's a very important theme. And from woman and wine, you move to the tribe, to chivalry, to bravery. Islamic era took the same tradition, speaking and addressing a woman, but not from a physical, but more of a platonic, religious, sacred. Sufism, the woman is God. So when the poet says Layla, he means Allah, the God, the eternal being. So for the Sufis, he's saying Salabat Layla Minni al-Aqla. Layla has taken my mind. So God has taken my mind. I'm just obsessed with the eternal. So this is how it starts. And then he says, Qultu ya Layla minki ya Rahma. And then he said, Layla has taken my mind. And I told her, oh Layla, please be merciful to me. So this is the poem. Yes.
That's cool.
سلبت ليلى مني العقل قلت يا ليلى ارحم القتل ارحم القتل حبها مكنون في الحشا مخزون أيها المفتون هم بها هلا هم بها هلا إنني ولها خادم أيها اللئيم خليني مهلا خليني مهلا وصلا هل ترى وصلا قال لي يا صاح مهرها الأرواح كم محب راح يا شقي القتلى يا شقي القتلى أيها العشيق إن تكن صديق للسوى فريق تغتنم وصلا تغتنم وصلا سلبت ليلى مني العقل قلت يا ليلى ارحمي القتلى ارحمي القتلى ارحمي القتلى
Have mercy, have mercy.
Layla, have mercy.
You know, I had a thought. There's a song by an American, or excuse me, a British musician, Eric Clapton, called Layla. It's a famous rock song, and I wonder if there's a connection to this mythical Layla from the Arabic tradition.
Yeah,
it's one of the in the lists of the top rock songs of all time. For example, I used to listen to radio, a lot of radio like that. This was always one of the top 10 songs, and perhaps
Layla in Arabic means night. So 1,000 Nights, the well-known book about the Sindbad and Aladdin, the 1,000 Nights. It's in Arabic. It's Alf Layla, 1,000 nights. Layla is also a night, means connote night, also the meaning, and a name of a girl.
and a metaphor for God. So night.
And metaphor for God, and metaphor for the ultimate love, and metaphor, yeah.
Wow. That's quite a constellation of meanings in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, the tradition of poetry pre-Islam, it was basically the topics were on love, on woman, and on wine. So the most important thing for an Arab individual, an Arab man, is his dignity as part of the tribe, and having a woman that he loves, and enjoying wine. So when Islam came, they wanted to keep this tradition. So the better way to keep it is to turn the name into like in the love of God instead of in the love of woman. But some of the poets were playing on it. Like, for example, in order not to be prosecuted, they would say, yeah, this is a name of a god, and, but they mean So it's very interesting. If you just move through the tradition of poetry in the Arab world.
It reminds me of the Christian tradition. Also, like there is a Christian tradition of expressing that relationship as a romantic one, but usually God is given the masculine role, and God is coming to woo the human, or the church, or the church is his bride, or I was saying we read something in my medieval studies class once where the soul is a beautiful woman in a castle besieged by enemies, and God is going to come and liberate her. So I don't know, it's just interesting that Islam has the same thing but flipped. It makes an interesting. The woman is where the power is in this.
Well, what is more interesting is that in this region, we started worshipping the woman. So that's why Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, in his poem, there is Ishtar, who is the goddess, the woman. And even the word, I mean, many people say the etymology of the word Allah, which was in Mecca before Islam, before Muhammadi, it was the word Allat, which was a goddess more than a god, which the word etymologically, many people say that it turned into Allah, which was Allat, which was an old goddess, a woman goddess. And in Mecca, what is known now Saudi Arabia, people were worshipping a Lat, which was like a goddess that resembled Ishtar, that resembled Anana from the Sumerians. Okay. So we started worshipping the goddess mother. So that's why Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, when he started with his revolution in poetry, he brought the past, but then he did not go to the Islamic past. He went beyond that, and he brought the mythology. He brought the past in order to have meaning in the present, in a way. I mean, definitely had many questions like, who is the Arab individual? What does he think in the modern world? What would he want? Where would he go? What is meaning for an Arab individual in the 20th century? So in order to understand the present, he had to bring the past. But then again, because he is doing like some sort of a revolution on the past, he did not go to the Islamic poetry, because form is very important for Islam rather than meaning. So you can do a revolution on the meaning, but not on the form. The poem stayed for centuries the same. Nothing has been changed. There is only one meaning. There is only one sacred book. There is only one type of ruling people. There is, if you want to, to think about it, there is only one regime. There is only the Khalifa. There is only one way of thinking. There shouldn't be philosophy, there shouldn't be logic, there shouldn't be this and that, because there is only one color, and the poem has to stay because the form is sacred, and this is what we had from the past, and the past is sacred. But when someone comes and then make a revolution against this past and against the form, and bringing a free verse, in a way, creating different meaning, a different present, and creating a freedom. So this is how I see al-Sayyab myself.
So Rain, the Rain song is not in the traditional form, you're saying?
No, definitely not.
Totally.
Of course. And he has been criticized for corrupting poetry, because in Islam and in the Arabic tradition, the only form of literature we've been feeling proud about, is only poetry. So we didn't know the novel till later stages. We didn't know. We've known the qissa al-mahkiya, which is like anecdotes and or traditional stories that's been told by and it's been transferred through a rawi, who is someone who recites, but not like a well-fetched form, like a novel or short story with all its form and how it should be written, the novel or in our past, we were not interested. We were more interested in poetry, and this is the only form of art we had. So someone to come and do a revolution against something from the past, and it wasn't something easy, and he was criticized a lot, and they said he corrupted poetry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because if he is calling for changing poetry, definitely the regime would not like that, because this will call again to change of way of thinking, of how things are done, of politics, of social, economic changes. So yeah.
Okay. That's amazing.
I would like to back up a couple of steps and
Yeah.
even get very basic, because I had never myself heard of Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. I think probably many others who might listen to this in the future will not have heard of him before. Probably the horizon or the scope of most, at least Americans, that English-speaking people who follow literature, is maybe Rumi, and
Yeah.
I can't think of too many more. Khalil Gibran, maybe, that there's not so much exchange compared to with other cultures, like poetry in Spanish or literature in Spanish, or even Chinese. I mean, there's just less exchange. Moreover, there are the political and the geopolitical and the historical realities, and so for me, this is a introduction. This is somebody new, somebody I've never heard of, and whom, as you're saying, as you've been saying, even in the Arabic world, is not very well known. Although he is recognized in Arabic literature, I understand, as a major contributor, as a major, somebody who changed the form of poetry in Arabic literature, and so. Just to provide some basic, like, Wikipedia level information to save people that listening to this the click. He Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, I hope I'm pronouncing that well enough. He was born in Jakur near Basra. Basra is a city we would have heard of. December 24th, 1926 to December 24th, which is Christmas Eve, in 1964. He was young. He died at 38 years old, exactly 38 years old. And growing up, he became a teacher in 1948 in Baghdad. But he was dismissed from his post because of his affiliation with the Communist Party. At one point, he had to leave Iraq, as he was fearing for his life. But he later changed his views about communism and about the revolutionary, the way that revolution was being conceived in party politics, and he came to have a view that I think is maybe more similar to the one that Gao Xingjiang, whose book Soul Mountain we read together, shared, which more espoused or more valued the role of individual expression and the poet or the writer as being true to their own vision, not to an ideology, not to an ism. So he also died. He got ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, is it?
Yeah.
And was in a lot of pain toward the end of his life, and wrote some very powerful poems, which I read just in of course, I haven't heard their what they sound like really, but the words and the concepts and the experiences that he express, very drenched, deeply embodied in pain, the experience of pain, physical pain. And he writes from that. He was in a hospital in London toward the end of his life and wrote a number of poems from there. Before we began recording, Dona, you suggested we stay away from the politics and really focus on the poetry, because that, I think, is what he wanted. That's what that would continue his intention, I believe. On the other hand, we can't ignore the political context, and for him, a literature of engagement was still very important. It's just that I think the concept of engagement changed for him. So that said, I would like to invite you to help us continue the conversation and enter into a dialogue with this wonderful poetry that I've in very short time have resonated with very deeply, and without having even so much of the language, the felt feeling of the language. So I hope we'll get to explore that as well.
The reason why, I suggested that we do not discuss him from a political point of view, because, there's been a lot discussing how when he was in the Communist Party and then he moved to a more national, it wasn't a party as such, but it was more nationalism, because it's the era itself, the 50s. In the Arab region, because coming out of the colonial, whether it's a British or the French. So the artist wanted to find a voice. So the communist voice did not really match the identity of an Arab individual. It was like a journey, when you have this faith journey where you try to experiment, you might go to experiment in Buddhism and then go back to Christianity and then try to find something more spiritual, what might be your own spiritual voice. This how I feel individually what happened to him. He was, while he was studying in university, because, in university you have different parties and communism, because he came from Jaipur. Jaipur is a small village, and it's not a known village in Iraq, a huge, big country where you have Mosul, you have Baghdad, you have these big cities. Somebody coming from a village. So he wanted to fit, not coming from a very well-known big family. So the Communist Party would mean something for him to find a place, where everybody are equal and this and that and all these ideologies. And especially, I've seen interviews for his son, his daughter. Physically speaking, he was very thin even. The Iraqis are well known as being, of a huge body, men, the Iraqi men. And Badr Shakir al-Sayyab is this tiny, delicate, thin man coming to study. And these are all psychological things would affect an artist. So he wanted to fit, in a society, and he wanted to understand and to find a voice. So he experimented with the communists, and then later on he criticized them. And his comrades, if we can call them comrades, also criticized Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. And he went to jail because of his ideas and ideologies. And then he went to nationalism, and then he also had clashes with the nationalist party in Syria and Lebanon. And he has some letters exchanged between him and Adonis, who is also Adonis, or Adonias, if you want, who is Ali Esper, who is a very well-known poet also in the Arab region. And where Adonis is someone who supported the prose poem. And then there were some exchange letters between Badr Shakir al-Sayyab and Adonis, and talking about poetry and what does it mean to do a different type sort of a poem, and to try to understand your voice in the present as an artist, and to leave the tradition with all its constraints, and where the tradition and the past would tell you there is only one meaning and there is only one knowledge, and you try to find different knowledge. And I think this is the story of Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. He was looking for meaning, looking for knowledge, looking for meaning himself, looking for where does he fit in Iraq as an individual, or where does he fit as an Arab individual, even in the region or on the international level. This is how I see him, and this is how I read him. We all try to fit. We all try to find our meaning and knowledge, and we all try to fit some way or another, whether it's through gender, whether if we want to say, I want to fit within my gender, or within outside my gender, within my country, outside my country, within my religion, outside my religion. So I think his dilemma all his life is to try to not to have this alienated feeling. I mean, you find it in all his poems, this sense of alienation. He's alienated. I mean, even he went to Kuwait and then he came back to Iraq, and even inside Iraq, he felt alienated. So even his poems has this, even the rain song, I mean, the rain is bringing sadness. And imagine in Iraq and the desert, they wait for the rain. But for Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, when rain comes, it brings sadness, it brings gloom, it brings, yani, he say it in one of his verses. He asks his beloved, do you know what does the rain brings in Arabic? It's somewhere in Arabic. I mean, yeah, أتعلمين أي حزن يبعث المطر. Do you know what sort of grief rain would bring us? And imagine, like, especially his dad, he was a farmer, and he must have grown up and he knows the importance of rain in a desert. But still, rain is bringing him sadness and grief. So, yeah.
You know, the question of identity, I think, is really interesting for a poet, especially. And I think for somebody who identifies as a poet, which I've done, but it's not a simple thing to do. It's not. You can't just put a label on yourself. You can't get a degree that makes you a poet, right? It really is a matter of something, I think, that's more interior. It's something that it's a faith. It's a kind of faith. I feel like there's almost like one can recognize like that, what the interior struggle is to bring a feeling into words that is also part of a dialogue with other poets who are contemporaries on the one hand and who are experiencing the same world or different aspects of the same world, some of the same struggles politically, the revolutions happening not just in literature but in social and political, the social political sphere. But there's also a dialogue with the past. There's a dialogue with the tradition that you've inherited, and in a global planetary environment, there's a dialogue between traditions and even between languages. So I sense that like that alienation may be part of what he recognized and resonated with in poets that he read in English, who were doing modern, what came to be called modern poetry, or we're trying to change the form, and to create a literature that was adequate to the transformations, to the big changes and upheavals that were occurring in the world. I mean, after World War I, after World War II, who could write? This was one of the big critical questions that came, that was discussed. Like, how can you even write poetry after the atrocities and the horrors that the world witnessed? It's like you lose your innocence. Can you keep, versifying about wine, women, and just the pure ecstasy of divine intoxication, at the same time that there's genocides and there's a long history of violence, of course, in humankind, and especially geographically in the Middle East. but at the same time, there's a whole nother level of it, right? When it becomes technologically enabled and accelerated. And this is also part of the context, and part of the, the world, the life world that al-Sayyab is writing in. I wonder how you see that dialogue happening between the poet, his contemporaries, his history, and then other traditions.
Well, there is one thing actually. I mean, when you spoke that after the atrocities and World War II and Auschwitz, and for the Sayyab, it's the thing is we had our share of also. I mean, but the thing is there was always the voice of the group in the past, in the Arab, the Islamic past. There is the voice of the tribe, prehistorical Islam, and then Islam came, there is only the voice of the group. There is no individuals. There is the Khalifa and the dictated rules, and there is this voice of the group. So what the group dictates, then the poetry reflects the group, whether it's the Abbasi era or the Umayyad era or the Ottoman rule, it's always the voice of the group. But then again, after the in the mid of 20s, after many different ideologies coming up, after the British colonialism, the French, whether in Northern Africa or the Arab region or the Western Asia, there was a time when there should be a voice for the individual. And the individual, in order to have a voice, should destroy the past. And I think this is what Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, and the free verse was not only Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. What's interesting, Nazak al-Malaika, who is a poet, a female, both of them, Nazak al-Malaika, who is also an Iraqi poet, a female woman poet, Nazak al-Malaika and Badr Shakir al-Sayyab published the free verse, which made a chaos. And you wake up in the morning, there is only one reality, there is only one truth, and then you wake up in the morning and you find free verse. So people, I mean, I would try to imagine you wake up in the morning and you find a poem, free verse, and what is this, and why he is bringing Ishtar back, and what do we need with the mythology. And you have to destroy the past in order to have the present, and in order to understand where you're going for the future. If you still in the form of the past, then there is only this one meaning that's dictated to you. But as an individual, you have to find a voice. So for him, for Nazak al-Malaika, they needed to do a revolution, and it wasn't easy. I mean, this is like a sacred temple, poetry for the Arab region, for the Islamic. It's something very sacred. I mean, and you had to destroy this temple. People were criticizing them a lot. You've corrupted poetry. You're corrupt. It's like Socrates all over again. You're corrupting the youth. What you're doing, this is not poetry. The language itself, you're corrupting language. Arabic is not like that, and there is no rhyme. And what's going on? And how would he feel, a Sayyab who even as a member of the Communist Party, he felt an outcast. In Iraq, an outcast. And how would he feel within the literary scenery and society? He also was an outcast. Until later on, when other poets had the courage to also start to experiment in the form in order to find different meanings. So this is how I see it. In order to find meaning with what's going on for him as an Arab in the 20th century, I think he had to resort to this sort. It's very easy to write in the same tradition. For him, he has the language and a beautiful imagery and a beautiful language. It would have been very easily to write the traditional poem. But no, he went to a different land. And I mean, for him, I see it like the Enlightenment. You know, when the Enlightenment, they translated the Greek philosophy in the peak of the Christian church. So Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, he translated Eliot in the peak of the poem, you know, the Arabic poem. And the Enlightenment, he had to go to the other. He went to the Western tradition and culture, to the Western poetry, to Eliot, and he translated this in order to enter enlightenment, to enter a different way of thinking, to have a different mindset. So, I mean, this is how I see it. That, I mean, for me, if this is how I see it, he is creating, he is innovating. He's not just copying the past. And what is really very smart is that he is bringing the past also to the poem, and not just any past, the myth from the past. The myth, Ashtar or Tammuz, in the poem, but at the same time is not in the same traditional form. And for me, I think this is something really very creative and very genius.
Did it represent the poets who have followed him? Have there been people who have continued along, or was there kind of, did he ultimately change the poetic tradition that he was in, or has he stayed an outlier?
No, he changed. Most of the modern day Arab poets are writing free verse, are writing the prose poem. Rarely you would find someone writing in the traditional type of poetry, the Arab, the old traditional poem, Arabic poem. Mm-hmm. And even us as audience and as readers, and for me, if I want to pick a poetry book, definitely I would go for the prose poem, because now it means more to me. It gives me freedom. It means a lot more to me. Even the free verse poem, it means more to me as an Arab living in this era now, living now in modern day Jordan. It means more to me than to go and read a traditional poem. It gives me a sense of freedom, a sense of, yes, I can create and recreate myself. Even the other poets are experimenting, I mean, really going to the extreme even now, which is beautiful. He opened the door for this. He opened the door. He not only destroyed the temple, but he paved the way for many, many people to experiment. Even in novel, I mean, it was him and it was Ibrahim Jabra. They were both friends, who was a novelist, who also resorted to the stream of consciousness in writing his novels, which is something was very new to the Arabic novel as well. So he paved the way for artists to really come out from tradition.
Okay.
I think the connections with Eliot are really interesting, and the way in which this concern was central to Eliot's thinking poetics as well. The way in which the individual poet and the modern poet, right, is making it new, is changing it, is enacting a revolution, a transformation in the form, and even the function of poetry, as far as it relates to the larger society, but also has a connection to the past, is also reincorporating myth, is reincorporating to me, it's also a living energy that the myths hold. And although they're fragmented, and in the modern world, they're not given the absolute significance that they are in a traditional or a tribal society, that doesn't mean that they don't have power. Like in modern technological society, everything becomes, commodified. And one of the things I think that the poet is doing is liberating objects from their commodity status in order to restore them to their sacred energy, their sacred power. So, like, I think the connections, they're very explicit. Like, al-Sayyab writes about Eliot. He translates Eliot. He introduces Eliot to other poets. And there's also a relationship between the individual and the collective, like that you brought up. It reminded me of a letter that I read just a little bit earlier, which was from al-Sayyab to Yusuf al-Kal. Is that name familiar?
Of course. Yes.
And I didn't, on the page I read this, all the context wasn't clear, but I can read, you can kind of see what's going on here. But apparently al-Sayyab has received a letter from Yusuf, and Yusuf is an editor of a poetry magazine in Syria, Shir?
Yes.
And has invited al-Sayyab to be a contributor, to have a column or something like that. And Shire is Adonis, who you mentioned, was one of the owners or editors of Shire, and a few others, but they also had party affiliations with the Syrian National Party.
Yes. And
so this puts al-Sayyab in a kind of interesting place, because on the one hand, he wants to support, there's respect between them, right? And he expresses this in other letters as well. He's corresponding with Adonis, and they're friends, really, and they're exchanging love and respect. But he's also concerned about the uncomfortable relationship between between the journal and the party, and how that will affect or reflect on the poetry, like the essential thing that he's really committed to. So he writes to Yusuf al-Kal, "I have read what was circulated on the pages devoted to the Thursdays in Majalat, Shire Poetry Magazine. I read your exaggerations. The colloquial language, as Adonis said, cannot bear the burden of the issues that the contemporary Arab poet must deal with." This is, I think, also what you were saying, the need to deal with the new realities. "The communists alone insist that the poet write in a language and a style that the masses will understand." Right? So this was part of even in Europe, the revolutionary kind of ideal was that, you write poetry that mobilizes, and the proletariat to the cause. As for us, the opposite is true. We write, indeed we must write, about things above the level of the masses who are different culturally. And I feel like that's a very interesting perspective to have. It's kind of an elitist perspective, but it's we'll come back to it. He goes on, "If we wish to walk along with them, then we would have to hold ourselves back intellectually and culturally, to hold ourselves back from the depths, from art, from many things. Poetry, like all the fine arts in these times of ours, cannot be limited to being for the collective. Nor can it be a political tool, or even a political film or an article in the newspaper." And then he goes on, have you read what T.S. Eliot said about the individual talent and the cultural heritage and their connection to poetry? A thread must continue forever to be there between the old and the new. Some elements of the old must continue forever to be there in what we call the new. Our poetry must not be some kind of Western monstrosity in Arab or semi-Arab garb. We must make use of the best there is in our poetic heritage. At the same time, we make use of what the Westerners have perfected, especially by those who speak English, in the world of poetry. And then I'm not going to read so much of the rest of it, but he goes on to speak more specifically about Shire as being accused of being a magazine of Syrian nationalists. And he says, this is what keeps it from entering Syria, for example, and what makes many poets wary of publishing in it. The important thing is that this magazine and this poetic movement keep away from any political stamp. This will not occur unless the group of poets involved in it steer clear of political ties. The foremost goal of this movement must strive for, in my opinion, is to keep poetry untouched by any party affiliation or politics. So, quote, the poet must not squander his efforts in areas far from the concern of poetry, as Nadir al-Azma has said. And I guess that's just what I wanted to share, because it was really a very specific situation that he was responding to that speaks more about his character and what he was attempting to accomplish as an author, as a writer, as a poet, and how that really gets put on the line when you're dealing with the world of relationships and politics and history. And he was very aware of that, and aware of his own role, even in in a much larger tradition, a poetic tradition that he finds a kind of correspondence with in Eliot. So I would love to hear your response to that, and then I want to make sure we get to read the poetry too, because I think that this is all just like preparatory, right?
Well, I mean, this is an era which I would have loved to have been there in the 60s in the Arab world, where you would have Badr Shakir al-Sayyab sending a letter to Yusuf al-Khal, where you would have Adonis, who is Ali Esper, and he has chosen the name Adonis because the god Adonis, or Adonias, is a god of this region, who is a god of recreating, and he wanted to recreate himself. Yes, Adonis was part of the Syrian National Party, but like Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, Badr Shakir al-Sayyab was a member of the Communist Party, but then he went against them. The same thing Adonis he did later on. Adonis is living in France now. He's a very well-known figure. For me, the poetry of Adonis, I mean, my friends and many people in the Arab world, we call him the poet of the elite, because not many people like his poetry, because it's very complicated and very revolutionary. But for me, when I read a poem, or even when I read, because he writes a lot on literary criticism, and he writes on the individual and the Arab individual and the other, especially the Arab individual in facing the other in different tradition and culture, and that it's about time for us, an Arab, to get out of the past and to start understanding the other and learning from the other, and at the same time finding a voice for us as individuals. Now, Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, he accused Yusuf al-Khal and Adonis of corrupting poetry.
How ironic.
Yeah. But Adonis, here you are seeing actually who is speaking is T.S. Eliot and Rimbaud, the French poet. So you have Rimbaud on the one side, Adonis, he worship Rimbaud, whereas Badr Shakir al-Sayyab is worshipping T.S. Eliot. So now you're having a conflict between the free verse and the prose poetry. So for Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, free verse, you have one rhyme, whereas Adonis came and he took out and he did the prose poem, and for him, he has corrupted in a way. And he even declared this is not poetry to Adonis, whereas Adonis, he's saying, no, this is poetry. So it's very interesting, because I mean, these type of dialogue, it's when you say that, yes, the myth and the gods, and you bring the past, but why do we bring the past to the free verse? Or even Adonis, he brings the past. to the prose poem. The past, we evoke the past in order to have a meaning, to understand the present. But you change the form. You are changing the form, because definitely this is a different era and different you and different individual and different presence. But you bring the past meaning in order also to understand the current meaning and to create a future meaning. This is how I see it. When he brings like Ishtar or Tammuz or any other Iraqi mythology, this is the past, the presence of the past, but a meaning, trying to get a meaning from the past rather than just a form. The form will never bring meaning. If there is a sacred book, if there is a sacred way of living, if there is only this party, if there is only this regime, this form will not give a meaning. Meaning is coming to a different person, to a different individual, to a different form, and the form is not as important as the meaning itself. So Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, yes, he was, but then again, Yusuf al-Khal, and I'm not sure about Yusuf al-Khal, but Adonis, I am pretty sure that yes, he left the National. He even criticized them at a later stage. But you have to think of them, those are people, they were young, in universities, they wanted to find a voice for themselves. Their countries witnessing lots of changes. There is no identity for the country itself. And they found, I think, whether Badr Shakir al-Sayyab or even Adonis found their voice eventually in art, in poetry. That's why Adonis now, if you listen to any of his interviews, you would always see this intellectual who is not affiliated to any political party or any country even. He's more of a global artist now, which is a maturity, which is a journey that any artist would go through. But I mean, living within a certain type of government, living within a certain geographical area, your parents, your religion, the books you read, it will dictate certain things on you. But the more you become true to your art, the more you would leave all these different forms. You will bring the meaning from the past, but you will create your own meaning. And at the beginning, Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, he published some of his poems in Sha'ar, but later on, there were some conflicting. Badr Shakir al-Sayyab and Nazik al-Malaika, the other Iraqi poet, also, they were criticizing the let's say, the group of the poets who lived in Beirut. So that's very interesting, actually.
I find this kind of thing very fascinating, actually, and I don't experience it so much in my context, but I've traveled in Central America, and I spent some time in Nicaragua specifically, and El Salvador as well, and got to know the poets and the scenes and the different groups and the cliques, and they each had their magazines, and they published each other's poems sometimes, but they also criticized each other's work, and there was politics involved, and they were also reacting or responding to movements in the broader culture, and to me, that's part of that's actually what makes the tradition alive. That's what allows for it to progress, is that you have different experiments, and you have different groups, and they're aware of each other, and they're reacting and responding to each other, and that's even fueling their own innovations and their own creativity. And then they're also introducing each other to other influences, like the way that Sayyab introduces Eliot. And Eliot himself was doing the same thing. I would love to maybe start reading some poetry.
Yeah, I want to hear some poetry.
Great. So here's what I propose. I've been trying to read The Wasteland, actually, for the last 2-3 years. I'd read some Eliot before. Eliot was very influential for me in my own style, my own way of writing. It's the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock and various other, pieces. But I never had not tackled The Wasteland because when I looked at it, I couldn't make any sense of it. And only in like the last few months, I'm starting to get bits and pieces of what's going on really there. And certainly part of what he's doing is reclaiming and incorporating aspects of tradition, biblical. The tarot is in there, but he also is working with Eastern mysticism. The Vedas is in there, and he combines it into this sort of formal reflection of a material, a material destruction. Like this is being written in the aftermath of World War I, and not only that, but it's like it's not just the war; it's the culture that he's seeing being destroyed. And so the song that he sings here, it comes out as it's a kind of monstrosity, but it's beautiful. And the theme of rain that is central, and I think it carries over. So what I would like to propose is that I'll read just the first verse of The Wasteland, and there's plenty more that anybody can find different readings and interpretations of it. But then I would like to read the rain song, and perhaps you could read it, and then I could read the English translation, and there's that video we could listen to, or we could reflect on the reading and the meanings. In Eliot, what was in Eliot, there's so much music, and it's not like the kind of, a standard or poetic. It's the free verse music, so the music winds its way. It doesn't follow a specific form. I imagine that the same kind of musicality is present in al-Sayyab, but I can't hear it in the English translation. So what we'll do is sort of like have a little bit of music with Eliot, and then just the content and whatever I can, and then the music from the Arabic, and then the content. So we'll try to piece together different dimensions, in other words. But just so this is, we're at the end of March here, as we're recording this. So April is the next month.
Yesterday was the what do you call it? Yesterday, 21st of March, is the feast of Ashtar.
Oh,
okay, and it's the equinox, so it's the first day of spring.
Yeah, and Adonis, he is reborn on the 21st of March.
Okay, and what is what's so striking here is that while traditionally spring would be the time of rites of fertility and renewal and rebirth, The Wasteland, part 1, is called The Burial of the Dead, and it begins, the first line, April is the cruelest month.
Yes.
Breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starnbergesi with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went on in the sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin gar kein Russin, stamm aus Litauen, echte Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. He said, Marie, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night, and go south in the winter. So that's the first verse. And then Actually, I should read just the next few lines because they will lead in to, what are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats, and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's the same when rain for Badr Shakir al-Sayyab or for Iraq. April is also cruel, and the rain is cruel for Badr.
The thing that's life-giving is the cruel thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
That's what it, yeah.
So shall we read the rain song? And before we do, I do have a question about the title, because I've seen it translated as the rain song and also as hymn of the rain. Or so how should we understand it?
I mean, I think it's more of hymn to the rain. It's more than a song, because songs sometimes bring, I don't know. I mean, when you hear the word song, would it bring some sort of happiness? When you sing something, you're happy.
I
Hymn, I don't know, or ode to rain, an ode, although it's a different form, an ode to rain. I don't know, because it's in Shuda. It's as if someone is, in Shuda is when you're in church and you're reading the Bible, or you're reading something sacred book. This is how it is, the word in Arabic. It's not like in Shuda, like singing, like small children when they go and read the Bible in the church, they yunshid. Whereas song is yughanni in Arabic. So for me, the title, I mean, I don't know, it's not capturing the meaning.
Could it be something like litany? Leany?
That's
a sort of chanted
word.
Religious text.
Yes, that's a better word, actually. Yeah. Wow, that's a
so the chanted part is the litany. Is that what makes it a litany?
I'm not sure what makes it I know I go to an Anglican church, so we do a lot of litanies, and I don't know that I know the definition of it. I just know a litany when I hear it.
Because rain could be like a litany, and in this piece, like the rain, it's like rain, matar, matar, matar. It almost sounds like it could be a litany, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
Like litany is something that goes on and on. And that was another thing about Sayyab, is that he wrote longer poems, and that was part of his style. It was important to him. And this, of course, The Wasteland is a long poem. This is not as long as The Wasteland. It's relatively long. And it was part of a book by the same title, right?
Yes. He has another poem, interesting poem. It's called Christ After Crucifixion. It's also a beautiful poem. And he has The Blind Prostitute, also one of his really, really beautiful poems.
Jot that down.
So why don't we try, you read in Arabic, and then I'll read this translation, which I felt was pretty good. The first couple times I didn't quite follow it all, but as I read it again, it started to make more sense to me. And at least that will give the meaning in English, but we'll have the feeling in Arabic. And then...
so the first phrase or the first verse is one of the most well-known, famous verses now in Arabic poetry. I mean, this first verse, everybody, who loves literature or art, they know it by heart. So this is one of the famous, it's very famous. So I will try to give it its importance. Okay. Shall I start? Okay.
Yes, please.
عيناك غابتا نخيل ساعة السحر أو شرفتان راح ينأى عنهما القمر عيناك حينما تبسمان تورق الكروم وترقص الأضواء كالأقمار في نهر يرجه المجداف وهنا ساعة السحر كأنما تنبض في غوريهما النجوم وتغرقان في ضباب من أسى شفيق كالبحر سرح اليدين فوقه المساء دفء الشتاء فيه وارتعاشة الخريف والموت والميلاد والظلام والضياء فنستفيق ملء روحي رعشة البكاء ونشوة وحشية تعانق السماء كنشوة الطفل إذا غاف من القمر كأن أقواس السحاب تشرب الغيوم وقطرة فقطرة تذوب في المطر وكركر الأطفال في عرائش الكروم ودغدغت صمت العصافير على الشجر انشودة المطر مطر مطر مطر. You want to read the English?
Yeah, so that's the first.
Yes.
So each time he says matar, matar, matar. That's rain, rain,
Yes.
rain.
Yes.
Why don't we go piece by piece then? Right,
Yeah.
So your eyes are two palm tree forests at early dawn, or two verandas from which the moonlight recedes. When your eyes smile, the vines put forth their leaves, and the lights dance like moons in a river, rippled by an oar at an early dawn, as if the stars were pulsating in their depth, and they drown in a mist of sheer sorrow, like the sea stroked by the hands of the evening, containing the warmth of winter and the quiver of autumn, and death and birth, darkness and light. A sobbing flares up to shiver in my soul, and a ferocious elation embracing the sky. An ecstasy of a child scared by the moon, as if arches of mist were drinking the clouds, drop by drop dissolved in the rain, and the children burst into laughter in the vineyard bowers. The rain song tickled the silence of the sparrows on trees. Rain, rain, rain.
تثاءب المساء والغيوم ما تزال تسح ما تسح من دموعها الثقال كأن طفلا بات يهدي قبل أن ينام بأن أمه التي أفاق منذ عام فلم يجدها ثم حين لج في السؤال قالوا له بعد غد تعود لا بد أن تعود وإن تهامس الرفاق أنها هناك في جانب التل تنام نومة اللحود تسف من ترابها وتشرب المطر كأن صيادا حزينا يجمع الشباك ويلعن المياه والقدر وينثر الغناء حيث يأفل القمر مطر مطر.
The evening yawned and the clouds were still, pouring their heavy tears, as if a child, before sleeping, was raving about his mother. A year ago he woke up and did not find her. And when he kept asking about her, he was told, after tomorrow she will be back. She must come back. Yet his companions whisper that she is there, laying dead by the side of the hill, eating soil and drinking rain, as if a sad fisherman was gathering nets and cursing the water and fate, scattering songs as the moon sets. Rain, rain.
أتعلمين أي حزن يبعث المطر وكيف تنشد المزاريب إذا انهمر وكيف يشعر الوحيد فيه بالضياع بلا انتهاء، كالدم المراق، كالجياع، كالحب، كالأطفال، كالموتى والمطر، ومقلتاك بي تطيفان مع المطر، وعبر أمواج الخليج تمسح البروق سواحل العراق بالنجوم والمحار، كأنها تهم بالشروق فيسحب الليل عليها من دم بثار. أصيح بالخليج يا خليج، يا وهاب اللؤلؤ والمحار، والردى فيرجع الصدى كأنه النشيد. يا خليج، يا وهاب المحار والردى، أكاد أسمع العراق يذكر الرعود، ويخزن البروق في السهول والجبال، حتى إذا ما فض عنها ختمها الرجال، لم تترك الرياح من تمود في الوادي من أثر. أكاد أسمع النخيل يشرب المطر، وأسمع القرى تأن، والمهاجرين يصارعون بالمجاذيف وبالقلوع، عواصف الخليج والرعد منشدين مطر مطر مطر.
Do you know what sorrows the rain can prompt, and how gutters sob when it pours down? Do you know how lost a lonely person feels in the rain, endlessly like bloodshed, the hungry, love, children and the dead? It is the rain. Your eyes take me roaming in the rain. Lightnings from across the Gulf sweeps the Iraqi shores with stars and shells, as if dawn was about to break from them, as if a sun was about to rise from them. But the night pulls over a coverlet of blood. I call out on the Gulf, O Gulf, O bestower of pearls, shells, and death. The echo replies, as if grieving, O Gulf, O bestower of shells and death. I almost hear Iraq massing thunder and storing lightning in mountains and plains, in order that if the seal were broken by men, the winds would not leave any trace of Thamud in the valley. I almost hear the palm trees drinking the rain, hear the villagers groan and the immigrants struggling with oar and sail, the Gulf storms and thunders singing, rain, rain, rain.
وفي العراق جوع، وينثر الغلال فيه موسم الحصاد، لتشبع الغربان والجراد، وتطحن الشوان والحجر، رحا تدور في الحقول حولها بشر، مطر مطر مطر. وكم ذرفنا ليلة الرحيل من دموع، ثم اعتللنا خوف أن نلام بالمطر، مطر مطر. ومنذ أن كنا صغارا كانت السماء تغيم في الشتاء ويهطل المطر، وكل عام حين يعشب الثرى نجوع. ما مر عام والعراق ليس فيه جوع، مطر مطر مطر. في كل قطرة من المطر حمراء أو صفراء من أجنة الزهر، وكل دمعة من الجياع والعراة، وكل قطرة تراق من دم العبيد، فهي ابتسامة في انتظار مبسم جديد، أو حلمة توردت على فم وليد. في عالم الغد الفتي واهب الحياة، مطر مطر مطر. سيعشب العراق بالمطر. أصيح بالخليج يا خليج، يا واهب اللؤلؤ والمحار، والردى فيرجع الصدى كأنه النشيد. يا خليج، يا واهب المحار والردى، وينثر الخريج من هباته الكفار على الرمال رغوة الأجاج والمحار. ما تبقى من عظام بأس غريق من المهاجرين ظل يشرب الردى من لجة الخليج والقرار. وفي العراق ألف أفعى تشرب الرحيق من زهرة يربها الفرات بالندى، وأسمع الصدى يرن في الخليج، مطر مطر مطر. في كل قطرة من المطر حمراء أو صفراء من أجنة الزهر، كل دمعة من الجياع والعراة وكل قطرة تراق من دم العبيد فهي ابتسام في انتظار مبسم جديد أو حلمة توردت على فم الوليد في عالم الغد الفتي واهب الحياة ويهطل المطر.
And there is hunger in Iraq. The harvest scatters the corn inside it. The locusts and crows may eat their fill. Granaries and stones grind on and on. Mills turn in the fields, surrounded by humans. Rain, rain, rain. How many tears we shed when the night of departing arrived, making the rain an excuse, fearing the blame. Rain, rain. Since we were children, the sky would be clouded in winter, and the rain would pour down, and every year when soil becomes green, we starve. Not a year passed that Iraq has not suffered starvation. Rain, rain, rain. In every drop of rain, red or yellow buds of flowers, every tear shed by the hungry and naked, and every drop of slave's blood shed, is a smile awaiting a new mouth, or a nipple becomes rosy in an infant's mouth, in the young world of tomorrow, giver of life. Rain, rain, rain. Iraq will become green. I call on the Gulf. O Gulf, O giver of pearls, shells, and death. The echo replies as if whimpering, O Gulf, O bestower of shells and death. The Gulf scatters its plentiful gifts on the sand, a lather of salty waters and shells, and the remains of the drowned, forlorn immigrant still drinking death from a fathomless gulf in the silence below. In Iraq 1,000 serpents drink the nectar from a flower the Euphrates has nurtured with dew. I hear the echo resounding in the Gulf. Rain, rain, rain. In every drop of rain, red or yellow buds of flowers, and each tear shed by the naked and hungry, and each drop of slave's blood shed, is a smile awaiting a new mouth, or a nipple becomes rosy in an infant's mouth. In the young world of tomorrow, giver of life, and the rain pours down.
So there is still refugees trying to make it. Iraq is still suffering from hunger, as if he was reading the future. And the Gulf is not answering.
I noticed something in the translation, and I wondered if it was carried over from the Arabic or if it was just a really happy coincidence. The word shells, which in English can be, artillery shells or seashells. And it seemed like both meanings were meant in English, and I wondered if Arabic has the same double meaning.
No.
No. Okay.
Shell, it's mahar. No, it's al-mahar.
Meaning the military shells?
Shell. No, meaning the seashells.
Meaning the seashells, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because the word in Arabic for rain, matar, in Spanish means to kill.
Ah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how these translations introduce kind of alternative meanings. But resonant meanings, actually. Like resonant meanings that weren't there in the original. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Jeffrey joined us just kind of at the right moment, right? As we were reading.
Yeah,
you missed all of the lead up.
Sorry, I'm not on video because I'm driving, so it's not much to see. You'll see the roof of the car. So.
Be careful. Well,
but I feel privileged to be here. That's the truth.
We could try listening to the whole poem read in Arabic with the music. I had that video, and that could be something. And then from there, I don't know. Like, it'll only be a couple of hours, so we can talk a little bit more. I would love to keep reading poetry because I've had some more of his poems, and the poems he wrote in London when he was, in a lot of pain. It's like, man, they're very powerful poems. So I sort of would like to hear them in Arabic too. I don't know if you have those, and maybe we just have to do this again and have kind of more opportunities to share. I
think one of them is called A Night in London. Is it this one? Or Gospel of Job, Safar Ayub?
The Book of Job is the translation that I have. Yes, that would be a great one to also read.
Yeah. يا رب أيوب قد أيعى به الداء في غربة دون ما مال ولا سكن يدعوك في الدجن يدعوك في ظلموت الموت عباء نادى الفؤاد بها فأرحمه إن هتف يا منجيا فلك نوح مزق السدف عني أعدني إلى داري إلى وطني. It's quite interesting that you would find like the Mesopotamian mythology, you would find the Bible and, like the tradition of the Bible and Christ in his poetry, but rarely you would never find anything Islamic, which is quite interesting. I mean, I've read most of his poems, but you will always find like the Bible, Christ, Ishtar, but you would not find anything Islamic, which is very interesting, actually.
Did he not? Did he have a religious affiliation?
I don't think so. No. I think he was an atheist, but at that time, people were maybe scared to declare that they are atheists in a way. Like Adonis now, he says that he's Sufi existentialist. But many people would, this combination, it's an interesting combination, a Sufi existentialist. I think he was trying to, I don't know, if maybe from his upbringing, he wanted to, to leave his tradition. That's why, whether he did his revolution in poetry and also in religion, most probably. This is how I see it. Because Adonis himself, in his books, he wrote against the Islamic tradition a lot. And I would assume that Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, maybe he wasn't that courageous to declare it. But Adonis, in his books, he did a revolution against the Islamic dictating way of thinking. For example, there is only one truth and there is only one meaning, that is through the religion itself. So, I think perhaps, since he's not using any Islamic symbolism or any Islamic connotation, so I would say, maybe he is like Adonis. But I haven't read anything or anybody who had mentioned this about Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. But now I thought about it, I've never seen him, using anything Islamic, any Islamic tradition. Poetry.
I felt like I was not recognizing, there were some references in the Rain Song that I didn't have enough knowledge to understand. I think when he said the winds would not leave any trace of Thamud in the valley.
Thamud, this is actually, that's very interesting. I don't know, is it mentioned in the Bible, Thamud, who God brought them? I think, I'm not sure if they perished through earthquake, or I'm not sure, but I think this is a story of a tribe who went against God or something like that. but I'm not sure what exactly happened to them. But I think maybe they were living in a valley, and then maybe like lightning or earthquake. I'm not sure, but they all
God
perished.
destroys them.
Yes. Is it in the Bible? Is it a story in the Bible?
No. I mean, we have other ones like
Old Testament, in the Old Testament. No,
we have something. We have Sodom and Gomorrah, of course, where God, I think, destroys 2 cities with fire because of their sexual sins. And we have Babel, where people try to build a tower and God destroys their tower. But I don't think I've heard of the Talmud.
There's the Talmud in Jewish, but this is different. And there were a couple typos, by the way, in the translation. So it could be a mistranslation even.
I'm trying.
When I type it into Google, I get a Wikipedia article on it.
Okay.
There's a civilization in the Hejaz from 8th century BCE.
Yeah, exactly. They are Arabs who lived in the in the area in Mada'in Saleh, which is in what is known now Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So they're an Arab tribe. Yeah.
I was curious about the opening lines because the image of 2 eyes is, each eye is a plural. It struck me right away from the beginning. I don't know if that's something to do with the translation or if...
So in English it says, your eyes are 2 palm tree forests at early dawn.
I mean, a palm tree forest is a plural, right? So it's a very unusual image.
Yeah. In Arabic, it is 2 forests. So the translation, I mean, he is comparing her eyes, her pair of eyes, like, let's say, a pair of 2 palm forests.
I think that's like, it makes it so much.
Yeah. So each.
Complex.
Yeah. So like her eyes are like 2 palm forests at the early light. So you would,
it has such a multitude right from the beginning. It's really fascinating as a way to enter the poem.
Because I mean, he's entering the poem from 2 important elements, which is the woman and the palm tree, which is a symbol of Iraq, a very important tree, a sacred tree even. So he's entering the woman from 2 important elements, the eye of the woman and the palm tree.
Right.
When your eyes smile, the vines put forth their leaves, and the lights dance like moons in a river.
This is like an image from Iraq. You would picture Badr Shakir al-Sayyab sitting one night in a beautiful summer night, perhaps next to a river in Iraq, and seeing the reflections of the moon.
I love the gutter sobs too. Is that, I can't remember if I've got that right, but
yes, it's amazing.
You could certainly read more Arabic. I would just bathe in it. I'm on my way to meet with a new friend who's also a poet, so this is a very appropriate listening exercise as I drive to Montreal to meet this friend. So
looking for that gutter line for you, Jeffrey. Where did it go?
I'm gonna use some.
It's in the wet part, I think 3rd stanza or something like that.
Do you know what sorrows the rain can prompt and how gutters sob when it pours down? Do you know how lost a lonely person feels in the rain?
Oh man, yeah. Endlessly like bloodshed, the hungry. This line maybe could be translated a little better. Endlessly like bloodshed, the hungry, love, children, and the dead. It is the rain. Your eyes take me roaming in the rain.
You'd like me to read it in Arabic?
Yes, let's hear it.
Yeah, okay. أتعلمين أي حزن يبعث المطر وكيف تنشد المزاريب إذا انهمر وكيف يشعر الوحيد فيه بالضياع بلا انتهاء كالدم المراق كالجياع كالحب كالأطفال كالموت هو المطر ومقلتاك بي تطيفان مع المطر وعبر أمواج الخليج تمسح البروق سواحل العراق بالنجوم والمحار كأنها تهم بالشروق فيسحب الليل عليها من دم دثار أصيح بالخليج يا خليج يا واهب اللؤلؤ والمحار والردى. I mean, I wonder if he is, reciting this poem or writing this poem while he's in Kuwait and trying to hear Iraq or maybe hear the rain of Iraq. You could feel that he's as if he's in Kuwait and thinking about Iraq and maybe thinking about his mother because he lost his mother at a young age, and maybe thinking about Jaikur, his village, thinking about his childhood, nostalgia to the village, to the mother, to the rain, but still the rain brings sadness, alienation. Yeah.
Would the rain clouds be coming in, like, actually, if you were on the shore, if you were on a veranda or something and you were looking out over the Gulf, would that be where the rain clouds would be coming from? Would that be where the weather was coming from? That's because there's this image of the Gulf bringing the rain, bringing, like, it's the waves, but it's
yeah.
And then it feeds the rivers, and those become the serpents that feed this life that is just tragedy. I'm really, like, what is the poet seeing?
Yeah,
right? Like that's what I think.
I think for him the Gulf is supposedly to bring him, like, it's supposedly to bring pearls and all these, all these treasures. But at the end, what the Gulf is bringing, he's shouting to the Gulf, but he has only echoes. So the Gulf is not answering him. He's telling the Gulf there is hunger in Iraq. People are dying. Refugees are dying. But the Gulf, who should be the grantor of the treasures, is giving echoes only. This is part of his maybe nationalistic ideology, where the Gulf, who should be in a way bringing prosperity, but then there's echoes. Like an Arab country like Iraq is calling the Gulf. I'm suffering from poverty, and especially there is an image of the ruling party in Iraq like snakes. I think there was some image who are using and abusing Iraq, but then, and I think it was somewhere I read it, but then the Gulf is doing nothing. The Gulf, who should have all the treasures, when I call the Gulf, I receive only echoes. So, yeah.
In Arabic, does the word Gulf also mean, as it does in English, a big emptiness or a big kind of cavity?
A big cavity, Khalij, is like a piece of land, in a way empty, not big, but it's only a Khalij. It's like a piece of land.
Like we would say, there's a gulf of meaning between, one person and another, like a big. So that word has a double meaning. It could also mean a body of water, like the Gulf of Mexico, for example, or
No, it doesn't have. It has only one connotation: the Gulf as a piece of land, like the Gulf of the Persian Gulf. Yeah.
That's interesting, actually. Well, the little bit you were saying about the refugees, here the villagers groan and the immigrants struggling with oar and sail, like that image is very contemporary still, right? Yeah. The Gulf storms and thunders singing. The Gulf scatters its plentiful gifts on the sand, a lather of salty water and shells, and the remains of the drowned, forlorn immigrant still drinking death from a fathomless gulf in the silence below. In Iraq, 1,000 serpents drink the nectar from a flower the Euphrates has nurtured with dew. I hear the echo resounding in the Gulf. Rain, rain, rain.
Yeah. This is more of a political connotation about the ruling party in Iraq at that era and about the Gulf and how the Gulf is indifferent to what's happening in Iraq.
He reminds me a little bit of Neruda in that way, who was also on the line between politics and the personal side of things. I'm sorry I missed the preamble. Is this like a favorite poem, or Donna, for you? Why did you pick this particular poet and piece?
Because this is actually the most famous poem for us here. This poem, especially the first two verses, this is the most famous poem. Like if you mention Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, immediately anyone would say عيناك غابتا نخيلا ساعة السحر, which is the first verse. Everybody would remember this. I mean, he had other poems, beautiful poems, but for us, I don't know, this is in our subconscious or conscious or whatever. Anybody who would mention in front of any Arab Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, immediately they would go عيناك غابتا نخيلا ساعة السحر. Because for us, this is a beautiful imagery. It's in the early light, which is for our region, most of it is desert. The early light is the time of a beautiful breeze. The weather is beautiful. Everything is awakening. The palm tree has a very importance for us. Dates is a bit... I can't say sacred, but it's very important because, I mean, in Ramadan, when you break your fast, it's traditionally you break your fast with dates. Mary,
and his father
Virgin
was a date farmer, right?
His father also, yes. Virgin Mary, for example, she gave birth to Christ in the Islamic tradition under a palm tree. So, and then the woman, and if the woman is the mother or Ishtar. So, yes, this first verse is very, everybody, I mean, anybody you mention, Badr Shakir al-Sayyab, immediately they would go, عيناك غابتا نخيلا ساعة السحر. So, yeah, it's one of his famous poems. Although he had other poems, which I really like, but this one, yes, because it's very famous.
So we'll have to learn to say it in Arab.
Could you help us say the title? Could at least just baby step.
Inshudat al-Matar.
Inshudat al-Matar.
Yes, rain song. Inshudat al-Matar.
Inshudat al-Matar.
Yes. That's lovely.
Well, we're just a couple of hours. May I propose that we listen to the full Rain song, the music with the musical accompaniment from that YouTube video, and then from there we could just say goodbye. And I so appreciate this introduction. This has been a wonderful discussion, Donna. Thank you for.
I enjoyed it very much. I mean, it's for me. I'm rereading Badr Shakir al-Sayyab again, and I enjoyed it very much actually. I have so many emotions now.
And is there something else as a follow-up you could do to lead us through? Another time, I mean?
I'm open to that. So
I would maybe be interested if there was interest.
If you like to go, that we go and visit Adonis, perhaps, who's the rival of
that would be great.
the rival of Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. I have almost all his books.
Let's do that.
Today I'm wearing Ashtar. Next time I would wear Adonis.
That would be lovely. It would be delightful.
I mean, I don't mind to introduce Adonis. Adonis, for me, I mean, he has a big impact on me.
Maybe a month? Maybe next month?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mary, do you have any last words? Because after the music, I'm going to cut out.
Okay. No, just thank you, Donna. This was really, really fascinating. So, thanks.
And such an illumination for my day.
Oh, wonderful. How rain could be.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really enjoyed it today. I enjoyed Badr Shakir al-Sayyab. I enjoyed the rain song, reading it in Arabic and listening to it in English. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
قصيدة أنشودة المطر بصوت المطر مهداة لكل عشاق المطر وأنثى المطر. عيناك غابتا نخيل ساعة السحر أو شرفتان راح ينأى عنهما القمر. عيناك حين تبسمان تورق الكروم وترقص الأضواء كالأقمار في نار. يرجه المجداف وهنا ساعة السحر كأنما تنبض في غوريهما النجوم وتغرقان في ضباب من أسى شغيف. كالبحر سرح اليدين فوقه المساء. دفء الشتاء فيه وارتعاشة الخريف والموت والميلاد والظلام والضياء. فتستفيق ملء روحي رعشة البكاء ونشوة وحشية تعانق السماء كنشوة الطفل إذا خاف من القمر. كأن أقواس السحاب تشرب الغيوم وقطرة فقطرة تذوب في المطر. وكركر الأطفال في عرائش الكروم ودغدغت صمت العصافير على الشجر. أنشودة المطر مطر مطر مطر. تثاءب المساء والغيوم ما تزال تسح ما تسح من دموعها الثقال. كأن طفلا بات يهثي قبل أن ينام بأن أمه التي أفاق منذ عام فلم يجدها. ثم حين لج في السؤال قالوا له بعد غد تعود لا بد أن تعود. وإن تهامس الرفاق أنها هناك في جانب التل تنام نومة اللحود. تسف من ترابها وتشرب المطر كأن صيادا حزينا يجمع الشباك ويلعن المياه والقدر. وينثر الغناء حين يأفل القمر مطر مطر مطر. أتعلمين أي حزن يبعث المطر؟ وكيف تنشج المزاريب إذا انهمر؟ وكيف يشعر الوحيد فيه بالضياع بلا انتهاء؟ كالدم المراق، كالجياع، كالحب، كالأطفال، كالموتى. هو المطر، هو المطر. ومقلتاك بي تطيفان مع المطر، وعبر أمواج الخليج تمسح البروق سواحل العراق بالنجوم والمحار كأنها تهم بالشروق. فيسحب الليل عليها من دم دثار. أصيح بالخليج، أصيح بالخليج يا خليج، يا واهب اللؤلؤ والمحار والردى. فيرجع الصدى كأنه النشيج. يا خليج، يا واهب المحار والردى. أكاد أسمع العراق يذخر الرعود، ويخزن البروق في السهول والجبال، حتى إذا ما فض عنها ختمها الرجال. لم تترك الرياح من ثمود في الوادي من أثر. أكاد أسمع النخيل يشرب المطر، وأسمع القرى تئن، والمهاجرين يصارعون بالمجاذيف وبالقلوع. عواصف الخليج والرعود منشدين: مطر مطر مطر. وفي العراق جوع، وينثر الغلال فيه موسم الحصاد، لتشبع الغربان والجراد، وتطحن الشوان والحجر. رحى تدور في الحقول، حولها بشر. مطر مطر مطر. وكم ذرفنا ليلة الرحيل من دموع، ثم اعتللنا خوف أن نلام بالمطر. وكم ذرفنا ليلة الرحيل من دموع، ثم اعتللنا خوف أن نلام بالمطر. مطر مطر. ومنذ أن كنا صغارا كانت السماء تغيم في الشتاء ويهطل المطر، ويهطل المطر. وكل عام حين يعشب الثرى نجوع نجوع نجوع. ما مر عام والعراق ليس فيه جوع. مطر مطر مطر. في كل قطرة من المطر حمراء أو صفراء من أجنة الزهر، وكل دمعة من الجياع والعراة، وكل قطرة تراق من دم العبيد، فهي ابتسام في انتظار مبسم جديد، أو حلمة توردت على فم الوليد في عالم الغد الفتي واهب الحياة. مطر مطر مطر. سيعشب العراق بالمطر، سيعشب العراق بالمطر. أصيح بالخليج يا خليج، يا واهب اللؤلؤ والمحار والردى. فيرجع الصدى كأنه النشيج. يا خليج، يا واهب المحار والردى. وينثر الخليج من هباته الكثار، على الرمال رغوة الأجاج والمحار. وما تبقى من عظام بائس غريق. من المهاجرين ظل يشرب الردى من لجة الخليج والقرار. وفي العراق ألف أفعى تشرب الرحيق من زهرة يربها الفرات بالندى. وأسمع الصدى يرن في الخليج مطر مطر مطر. في كل قطرة من دم المطر. في كل قطرة من دم المطر. حمراء أو صفراء من أجنة الزهر. في كل قطرة من المطر. حمراء أو صفراء من أجنة الزهر. وكل دمعة من الجياع والعراة. وكل قطرة تراق من دم العبيد. فهي ابتسام في انتظار مبسم جديد، أو حلمة توردت على فم الوليد في عالم الغد الفتي واهب الحياة. ويهطل المطر مطر مطر مطر.